from Maverickstar Observatory. If I'm looking a bit tired, guys, it's because I am. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, going over all these implications that we're about to face with regards to what is happening with the coronavirus. Where to start? I'm not concerned about the death rate. It's going to be severe. I reckon about 2% probably we're looking at dying globally, which is probably a little bit more than the average cold that people get and die of in any case. So I'm not too concerned about that. There are people recovering from it. The ones that it seems to be taking down are the ones with weak immune systems and respiratory problems, and like I say, weak immune system. So it mainly is affecting the elderly people. We had, I think it was about 1 in the UK last week. We're up to 30 this week, and those are just the cases that have been confirmed. I'm not sure whether they have the COVID-19 test kits widely spread out, in this country, so that they can accurately test that it is COVID-19 and not other things. Otherwise, we're going to end up with doctors missing and misprescribing or misdiagnosing at least what it is that the actual person that's coming to the surgery has got. So I know there is a problem with a shortage of test kits globally to accurately test for COVID-19. There's no escaping the implications that we're going to face as a result of this, even though it's not such a lethal virus for most of us. It is going to affect, like I say, the elderly, and we're going to lose a lot of elderly people through it. And it's my opinion that there's nothing we can do about it. We are all going to get it. Let's just say a very large proportion of people are going to get it at some point. There isn't, as we know yet, any vaccine that we can take to prevent getting it. So, and as you guys know, it has now spread pretty much to every country in the world since November. I believe the only continent now that hasn't got COVID-19 on it is Antarctica, and there's not a lot of people there in any case to worry about. It's the implications of what is happening now as a result of China shutting down. And what we're going to see, I can guarantee this. First of all, they're going to lock people up. Next, they're going to be threatening them to get them back to work, because the global shipping is grinding to a massive halt. So if you go and have a look at the Baltic Dry Index, you'll see that it has, since November or September, took a massive hit. And you could say that it was a result of the virus itself. So it's the knock-on effects now that is going to really have a problem. And I've always described this as the gauntlet. I said, we were running way too fast in this modern time, and it was only a matter of time before we tripped up on one of the obstacles in the gauntlet, and as a result we cascade into the others. And this is come out of the blue. It has gone global very quickly, but it's what is happening as a result of trying to contain the virus with the locking down of certain parts of countries and certain countries, and that is going to affect manufacturing in a big way. We've got one of the biggest car manufacturers here in the UK, not too far from us, and they've got about 8 days worth of components left before they have to shut the track down. And I know that they've taken through people that work there some steps and measures to make sure that people are not just sent home without any money. And I believe it's only going to be a short-term fix. It isn't going to be a long-term fix for these people. And I'm going to get to it, why that is really serious. So what they've decided to do is give them banked hours. So I believe it's like an overdraft. They will give them a certain amount of hours, wages, even though the factory is closed. but I can't see this being a long-term solution to fix this problem. And as we know at the moment, there is a lot of manufacturing which is just pretty much shut down in China. And it's not just the car manufacturers that rely on parts from China. Pretty much most of this world does, and pretty much most countries do. It's not just the electronic components that are not getting shipped out of China. And I've heard talk that, usually there is about 100,000 containers that leave China every day. If that's true or not, I don't know, but that seems like an awful lot of goods which are not leaving right now as a result of the coronavirus. And this affects people directly by, if they miss, as most of us do, we all, go from month to month, eat pretty much hand to mouth, and if we miss one of our payments on something serious like loans, credit cards, or mortgage, it's going to be very dramatically consequential for that person. And there is a lot of people in the UK and the rest of the world that are in that situation. I think there's only about 5% of the world's population that has around £5,000 in the bank account. So how does this affect everything else then? Well, I think we're probably going to rapidly emerge into another recession in a short space of time, and it's going to be a global recession, to say the least. And not only are we going to have to worry about the vulnerable people falling to the illnesses of this virus and probably losing 2% of the global population, we've also got to worry about the implications of this global recession, which is going to start pretty soon. And that is why we have been going through this since 3 o'clock this morning, looking at all the other implications and side effects of this. Another thing which is going to be a big problem for a lot of people is people panicking. And I've heard people talk that it's going to be like Black Friday on steroids once people realise the true implications of which we're all going to face. And that is why today, I decided to get ahead of the game, warn my family and warn you guys that it might now be a good time for you to stock up some extra foods, at least 3 months. And I know it's not going to be easy for a lot of you. It hasn't been easy for me. I've had to put it on the credit card. The way I see it is if the economy is going to tank, banks are going to be affected. We've had the Bank of England saying that global wealth could not wealth, but the global economy could shrink by half. That's the Bank of England coming out and saying this, and it has already started to affect the stock markets and even the Baltic Index. If you look at them, shipping is actually travelling around the world, and and some of the things that are in shortfall are like soybeans, live cattle, pork, things like this. It isn't going to be long before shops really severely stop getting some of their produce in. So that's one of the reasons why I went out today and brought a load of food, like pasta, tinned produce, stuff like that can just get us by for at least 3 months, as well as having now that insurance policy of the bug out bag and all what's in there with regards to filtration of water, tablets and things like that. Guys, if you haven't got yourselves any of these things, you seriously need to think about doing so and doing it in the short term. We're seeing countries being locked down, and as a result they're stripping the shelves. And I've noticed some of the things that are going first, which are oddly, but I can understand why that is. It's like sanitation stuff, like bleach and things like that, and the only thing I can think they're going to use that for is to try and keep things sterile, because they're worrying about the coronavirus. But like I say, we're all going to get the coronavirus, and you cannot shut the coronavirus off now. Within 2 months it's spread all around the world, and that is to do with largely the failing of governments not restricting flights and people. This is a serious thing. 2% of any population or global population is a lot of people, and we could easily be talking about millions of people dying as a result of coronavirus. So it's really, really serious. and it isn't going to be switched off. The only way you can turn this off is if you are fortunate to have a time machine, and I don't think anyone does, because you need to go back to where it started from and end it there. Once it's out the box, it can't be put back in the box, and now we are going to have to go through the measures and consequences of it being out the box. I think we're looking at a global recession in the short term. I'm really concerned, like I say, for people that are not going to be getting those things come from China in the short term. They're trying to contain a massive outbreak right now of the coronavirus. The Bank of England announcing that the global economy could halve as a result of coronavirus. We've had Boris Johnson come out and make a statement, and he's telling people not to panic. Everything is okay. It is business as usual, and it isn't business as usual. I've got a friend down at Felixstowe, and I'll get onto something else about that as well. He's down at Felixstowe, so that's where one of the biggest shipping ports is, and he's saying that there could be layoffs because there's no work, basically because there's no ships or very little work. So we are starting to see evidence of the global shipping grind slowly to a halt, and that means all those things that the shops rely on. Just I'll give you an idea. Can you imagine how Amazon is going to cope with all that Chinese stuff not coming out and going onto Amazon to be sold? So we're going to see some big names be affected by this. But yeah, when they say everything is okay, you're safe, you don't have to worry, it's business as usual, usually it's not the case, is it? I think what they're trying to do is a form of damage control and, stop people panicking. And I don't think it will be long before, a lot of people like myself, and I advised my family this morning, just like I'm advising you, that now might be a good time to at least get 3 months worth of stockpile of food together to look after you and your loved ones during what could be one of the worst scenes we have ever seen for a long time. Like I say, I think it'll be like Black Friday on steroids when people realise there is only a limited amount of food and the panic buying starts. We ain't far away from that. It could be just a matter of weeks away in this country. And if you're waiting for a point in time more close to the event, I don't think that that's probably a good policy because you might not get what you need. I mean, I have very suckily today been putting not cans but pallets of trays of cans of different produce in the trolley, and it must have looked crazy to some people. They must be thinking, what sort of grocery shopping is that? Because it was like 5 bags of flour, 5 bags of sugar, that sort of thing. But if you're putting up food for 5 months, then you need to 3 months, then you need to think about what you need. And if money's a bit of a premium, you need to obviously choose what you're going to buy with regards to that. Pasta, a box of pasta don't cost nothing. It was like 40p a packet, and 40p a packet for spaghetti. So you can live on this food on its own, but it's not very nice. At the moment, you've got the luxury of choice, and there isn't the panic buying started at the moment. But it won't be long before we see what we've seen in other countries, where the shops are going to get stripped dry. And there's some real big problems in China right now, from what I can see. With the convoy of lorries trying to get into cities with food and emergency supplies. And again, China has pretty much shut shop. So it's the knock-on effects that are going to become a reality for all us guys. We have hit the obstacle now. It's just a matter of time before we cascade into all the others. And we was talking about this at 3 o'clock in the morning, or since 3 o'clock in the morning till about 10 o'clock this morning, and I just thought, no, I'm not going to wait any longer. I'm going to go out there and get what I need for my family. And I also told my family, my extended family, that they should be doing the same. And thankfully, a few members of the family are doing that. We have got mums and dads, obviously, and we need to think about them as well. So putting up some provisions for those and keeping them safe. If you have been to a country, or you've been in an area of risk and you think you might have it, or there is a possibility that you could, then don't, until you know for certain. Go to these elderly people's homes, because if they catch it, they very likely are going to die of it, because of their weakened immune systems. So there's a lot of things we've really got to think about, keep our eye on. But the conclusion of this is that I think we're looking at the beginnings of a global economic meltdown, and at least another recession, and I think it's going to be much, much worse than the one we saw in 2007, 2008, and it really could be a game changer, this, guys. The amount of things that it can start affecting, it's affecting manufacturing. Well, this is just some of the things we was talking about this morning. Even if you shut the factory down, you can't just, at the blink of an eye, switch it back on when you get your components. You have to, you have to tune everything back up. It has to be made sure that everything is working correctly before you start running things off. And this costs money. And you can't just go like, Jaguar Land Rover need the components to build these cars from China. You can't just send that to another company, because you're going to get hit again with tooling costs. It's going to put the product price up. Another problem that Jaguar Land Rover have got is that they actually, one of their biggest exporters is actually China. So, without the components, they can't build cars and they can't sell cars. So there's a real dilemma going on with that factory at the moment, and it is going to affect thousands that work directly for that company, and there's a lot of small companies that actually supply Jaguar Land Rover with components, and it's going to affect those. And we're talking about a lot of people probably being laid off, and like I say, it could go as far as losing houses, and if that's the case, we could see a massive price drop in the property in this country. Could be a housing market collapse and a recession on top of that. It's not really looking good, is it? How long will it be before the grid actually gets affected, and could it get affected? That's some of the things that we're going to be looking at over the next couple of days, and I'm planning on doing with Andy from Andology a live broadcast on Wednesday evening, probably around about 9 o'clock GMT time over here in the UK. So join us, because we might be discussing things that you haven't heard discussed yet. We might have some solutions that you aren't aware of yet, and we'll be covering the topic of the coronavirus, probably the pole shift as well, because really that is our main subject on this. But you can't help not talk about coronavirus when it stands to threaten as much as it does at this point in time. So you cannot not talk about it. It's very important that we do, because we was always talking about this happening, and it looks like it is. And I think the main thing for you guys to take away from this is just get some preps done now. And if money's tight, get the emergency things like the staples, and then perhaps over the coming weeks you can stretch it to probably a few more luxurious items for yourselves and your loved ones. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to say there's a link down there if you want to support us at the observatory. Please do. Big thanks to all those that have already and that continually support us on Patreon and on PayPal, and we'll keep you informed as best we can. But definitely pencil mark that in your book for Wednesday around about 8 or 9 o'clock. I'll let you know closer towards that day. So I'll say what I usually do. Take care, be safe, and as always, bye for now.